Hey there. Hope you have a great start to this new week, the last week in April of 2026. I will tell you that this weekend has been one of reflection as I am putting the finishing touches on this Thursday's training, which I'm so excited to deliver, the hidden sales system that drives daily sales. And as I'm really wanting to make so simple what sales is, and I want to share with you exactly what I came up with. All right. So, what I find is that the way sales is taught is typically all about the pitch, the sales call, right? Or if you're selling, which we should be, we're selling all the time in master classes and 5-day challenges or whatever the heck the vehicle. It's how do we pitch? How are we selling? We think of selling as just that moment or just that specific time. But in my prayerful deep diving into what in the world is sales really, it's so much more simple than that. And I want to impart that to you. Because, I will always stand by the sales-centric business model that is the most profitable, that is the most impactful. So selling every day is the most godly thing we can do. So what is this thing called selling? And it is not that one moment at the end of the masterclass or that call. Because when you sell every day and all the time, you will need to get on sales calls less and less and less. That's a fact. And on those sales calls, you won't really be selling per se because they're already going to come in decided. And so if you're thinking, I need to grow my sales skills, yes, we do. We all do. But I want to impress upon you that those sales skills do not revolve around the pitch or the sales call. Okay. Now, the simplest definition of sales is simply communicating to your highest caliber best client the opportunity to get exactly what they deeply desire. Exactly what they deeply desire. Now, sounds simple, right? But the power is in the specific wording I used and what it means. So, communicating the words we use and the conviction behind the words. Do we believe that we can get this person the results we're telling them we can? Do we believe that when they work with us, they will get what they deeply desire? Yes, yes, and yes. You have to, right? You have to lead. You go first. But let's talk about this. Communicating the opportunity to get exactly what they deeply desire. Notice I didn't say exactly what they want. Why is that? Why is that important? Because lots of people want lots of things, but only those who deeply desire something are the ones willing to put in the work, do the thing, and step out of their comfort zone. So that phrase, deeply desired, what do they deeply desire versus just what they want, is intentional. And so with that by definition, okay, we're communicating with our words and with our conviction, the power, the tone of our voice. We're communicating to this one person, our highest caliber best client, the opportunity. Hey, it's here if you want it. No convincing there. Here's the opportunity to get exactly what you deeply desire. So what are the aspects of this? There are 4 of them. First, the who. This highest caliber best client. We have to know who she is. We've talked about that before. But what I didn't really get into before that I want to highlight now is as you know more and more who this person is, you really become obsessed with her in the most loving, serving way. What you need to do is speak to the most empowered version of her now. What do I mean? The highest caliber best client is already successful and they want more. So we're not going to speak to, you're struggling with this, you're frustrated with that. There may be an element of that in your messaging and in your content, but more than anything, you are speaking to that highest and most empowered version of her, the one that does invest, the one who does make decisions, the one who is autonomous, the one who knows what she's capable of, even though she might have momentary doubts. And not just that most empowered version of her now, but the even more empowered version of her in the future after she works with you. So this is where the identity comes in. We're talking to that highest version, right? And for us Christians, hello, you already know who you are in Christ. You know that you're capable of all things in him. You know that he's called you to this. So you know he has this big picture for your life, your business, your relationships, whatever it is, right? But you want more. And so then you paint that vivid picture of that woman she will become. Okay, that's your who. That's the first step in this 4-part sales framework. Okay, then that's the who. Now the what. So what do they deeply desire? What does this highest caliber best client deeply desire? And so, if you've been doing your work for a long time, you will know exactly what they want. But it's got to be specific, right? It's got to be specific. It is not just a result, make more money, lose weight. It is a very specific outcome, right? And you're painting a vivid picture of that future. So they want to be seen by higher caliber premium clients who, upon reading, upon finding you and, binging your feed, they know you're the one. You see how specific that is? And there's other ways to talk about this, right? She's also the one, because your genius is so clearly understood, top influencers who you have looked up to now suddenly know your name and they invite you to collaborate or to come on their podcast. But you see how even those two things, they're slightly different, but they speak to that same deeply desired outcome. What does life look like when? Right? What does life look like in different facets when she gets the transformation that you provide? Okay. And there's layers to this and nuance to this, but that's your what. Next, how will they get there? So you know who they are, you know exactly what they deeply desire. You clearly state that. And now, as a part of sales, you have to help them understand why being in your world, working with you, is an amazing experience, right? It's got to be experiential. How will they get there? So the world might say, what's the vibe in your room? And I say that, even though I would never say that in my outward facing marketing, I think you get what I'm saying. And if you are already my client, you know what it's like to be in my room, right? You know what it's like to be with me. You feel known, you feel seen, you feel, you feel welcomed, you receive specific detailed feedback like nowhere else. And I'm not touting myself up, this all goes to the Lord, but you may marvel in how much I know about your business, how much I remember about it week to week, month to month. And I know the specifics, right? And how much I'm really in the trenches with you and how much I care. So what is the experience like in your space? And so think about that client delivery. How are you cultivating community, and elevated, not just proximity? You get to hang out with me, but what is that experience like? And how does it make your client feel special, known, seen, valued? And how does that whole experience accelerate her growth and getting exactly what she came for? Okay, so that was 3. So we had the who, the what, the how, and now the last one is why. And this is really the clincher. Why you? Like, what do you do that nobody else does? What is your category of one genius? And so I want to be clear here. I've often talked about the core message. What is the one thing that will get your clients everything else they want? Like for me, it's sales. Once you nail sales, once you learn sales the way I teach it, you will get everything else you want. You'll get, a filled pipeline. You will get clients coming in on the daily, and they'll be getting amazing results. And by the way, you will have more freedom in your day because your words and your conviction that are already out there, whether it's on a podcast, guesting spot, your own podcast, in your social feeds as a bingeable body of work, you won't have to work so long and definitely not so hard. So that's very different and more specific than, like, how do I say this? Sales is my genius, but I've got to be more specific than that. And that's where my whole thing of sales-centric business means everything you're doing is selling. And so then selling becomes just like breathing. It's just what you do. And you don't have to memorize some crazy script. You don't have to look at some 350 plus page sales training manual in order to, quote unquote, know how to talk to people, whether in the DMs or on a sales call. You're just making so clear to them who you serve, exactly what they deeply desire, the beautiful signature experience that they enjoy working with you, and then, the beautiful future that you've painted for them. So why you? Why, it's not just sales that I'm genius at. It's sales as the golden thread through everything you do, from offer creation all the way to, stacking your monthly recurring revenue. So I know I need to make that even more clear, But I hope even today that you have seen, and I'm talking about sales through a slightly different lens. I'm always trying to simplify what sales really is. So just as we would love to be given the opportunity to be invited to, I don't know, whoever you most admire on the earth, imagine, I don't care whether it's an influencer, whether it's, I don't know, whoever it is, imagine you get the invitation to join them. And you'd be like, oh my gosh, yes, please, yes, of course. That's the idea of sales. It's just an invitation. There's nothing pushy about it, nothing manipulative about it, and there is nothing untoward. Like it is just so. Here you go. There's no convincing. It's exactly just a beautiful experience. Being sold to in this way is actually flattering, right? Oh my gosh, you think enough of me to invite me into your world? Wow. Why? Because you have established yourself as a genius in an area that matters to your best client. Okay. There's a lot of nuance and so much juice in these past 13 minutes. So I encourage you to listen again. But your homework for today is to think about these 4 aspects of what's required to sell every day, to sell in a way that is just so clear that they already know you're for them, obviating the need for a phone call. Like, why would they need to? The only reason they would need to reach out in the DMs or call is to get better clarity on, is this 6 months or 12 months? And that should really be made clear in your other areas. But do you see what I mean? They're really just getting logistics. And how much is it? Okay, great. I'm in. That could be your future. That will be your future when you master the true skill of sales. All right, I can't wait to see what your 4 aspects, the who, the what, the how, and the why, over in the chat.